All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, folks, and thank you for coming to tonight's webinar. I apologize for not being here on Monday. There was a pretty big issue with the internet here in Raleigh on Monday, and so I could not attend. I know Mr. Dubik treated you well, and I hope everything else is going all right. Before I get started, does anybody have any questions on what we did last class, which involved starting with 1-2-3D design and working a little bit with moving it around, augmenting how the orientation of certain objects, and etc., etc. So I do see a question here. Bridges due today, right? I believe they are due today, and yes, you can say hi. We do not have a winner quite yet. We will announce the winners within the next couple of days. So don't worry, we do have your submissions, and if you haven't submitted it yet, go ahead and submit it before midnight tonight, and we will see who our winner is. As a reminder, the specifications for the bridges were it can hold itself up as well as a truck, and it can, or it is as cheap as possible. So, oh, okay. Hey Wyatt, you can say hi, you could say hey, I'm here, and hey, good to see you. So like I said, before I get started, any questions on what we did last class? Go ahead and ask me if you do. I'll wait a second to see. And I hope you did enjoy starting to work with 1-2-3 design. That said, please raise your hand now if you do not have 1-2-3D design installed. It does not matter which bridge it is for the bridge thing. It has to be a bridge that holds it. It can be an arch, it can be a truss, it can be whatever you want it to be. But please raise your hand now if you have downloaded 1-2-3D design. You have not joined on Edmodo. Please accept you. Noah, which class are you in? Are you in the Charlotte Thursday class? Charlotte Tuesday. Huh, because it should have accepted you. You can't hear me? Can everybody else hear me? Noah, do you have the Edmodo code? Have you tried to connect to Edmodo? Or is it just not working for whatever reason? It's just not working? Alright, Noah, go ahead and give me an email. Oh, you want the code for the class. Alright, give me 1 second. And I can give the code to you. Doop, 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 doop. Gotta find it, sorry. That's the wrong one. Alright, so here's the code to your class. Otherwise, send me an email and I will forward it to Mr. D so he can judge it essentially. Alright, just be sure to email me, okay? No, is that cool? Alright. So last class what we did is installed, oh, you're in now? Excellent. Excellent. We installed 123D Design and discussed that it is a CAD program, meaning that it is a way to model designs in 3 dimensions on the computer. There's all sorts of different CAD modeling softwares. This is just one of them. If you're familiar with Tinkercad, this is very similar to Tinkercad. It's made by the same people. And hello, Devin. It's made by the same people, so if you have a solid foundation in Tinkercad, a lot of this might seem a little bit easier. That said, it's a little bit different of an interface, so you will have to get used to the interface, especially if you're used to Tinkercad. But we discussed moving and rotating, all sorts of different things inside of 123D Design. We discussed how to change your view, and oops, I accidentally X'd out of it. Oops. And also discussed all the things that you will find on the right-hand pane of your screen once you check out 123D Design. I don't think any of this was too difficult to understand. Does anybody have any questions on anything in the right-hand pane or the view cube that comes with 123D Design? Alright, again, it's very similar to Tinkercad. I'm not going to go over this, but if you're still confused, please watch the video, or I am available via email at saunders.yeot@gmail.com. So don't be afraid to send me an email. I try to respond as quickly as possible. It doesn't happen perfectly, but I do my best. You took a screenshot of your price and bridge. How do you share it? Good question. There will be an option to write a note. So please write how much your bridge costs. So let's say it costs $. There will be an option on Edmodo after you click note and your price to submit a file, and the file should be your screenshot that you select. So you might have to navigate to pictures to share it. But once you have submitted your bridge and your file, click send, and we will be able to see it. Alright, should I say it again? Yeah, I'll say it again. On Edmodo, there's an option to leave a note. Type in the price of your bridge. Click on File right here. Find the screenshot that you took. Hit OK, and then send. So, y'all can still hear me, right? I'm having some issues with hearing. Anybody still having issues with it, other than what I've been hearing? Alright. What was the code for the bridge design to enter? The code is basically how much your bridge cost. There's no fancy code you have to enter in or anything. Oh, sorry, I know what you mean. There is no code, so say there is no local contest. You never got signed up for Edmodo? Alright, John, which class are you in? Are you in Charlotte or Raleigh or Harrisburg or the distance, Ed? Charlotte Latin? Okay, your Edmodo code is going to be this right here. Yeah, no problem. But alright. So last class we discussed everything on the right-hand pane of, where is it? Of 123D design. We basically, oops, hang on a second. Alright, sorry about that. We basically just discussed moving a rectangle around on the plane, discussing the materials and seeing the outlines. I'm sorry, somebody's having trouble with hearing and I'm trying to help them out. Okay. And I believe about where we ended was, we talked about moving, sorry, I believe we talked about text. Can anybody verify that we talked about adding text to your design? I think we did, but I just want to double check. Anybody want to say yes or no? We mentioned adding text. Yes, we did. I'm not going to continue until I figure this out. Alright, you can hear now? Good. So I'm assuming that we did talk about the text. We didn't add text, but adding it self-explanatory. Alright, so that's a good point. A lot of the stuff in here is pretty self-explanatory. You know, if you add a primitive, which is one of these 3D geometries, you can add text by following what the prompts say on your screen. So for example, it says, click to select sketch. That basically means, hey, we're going to write on this face if you click on it. Oh, you're not being rude, don't worry. I want to help everybody out, and I just want to make sure I'm at the same page as you are, so don't worry. So if you want to write text, there's this gigantic T on the pane up here. Depending on which face you're hovering over, you can click on it once to start writing on the face, and again to add text. So from here you can write whatever you'd like, change your font, change your text style, change your height of your text, make it bigger or smaller, and which angle of that you are writing on. This might be a review depending on which class you are in. Again, I was not here, and I'm going off of the YouTube video where y'all ended there, which was beginning to draw your own design. So if this is a review to you, just sit tight. Otherwise, don't worry, I'm going to get to the next part in just a second here. So I know I briefly went over it, but it's not the biggest deal in the world if you don't know how to add text. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory given all of these nice little prompts that 123D gives you. So that said, the next part I'm going to get to is about grouping. So grouping is something that you need to do when you put many objects together and would like to fix their position. So let's say you have this nice snowman head right here. Grouping is going to put several objects together and make them one single object. This doesn't make too big a difference except for when you're moving the object. If you move an object that you have grouped, you can select the entire object and move all of it. If it's grouped together, it's going to stay together. They're best friends when they're in groups. The question is, for suspension cables on Bridge Designer, do we use 30 by 30 quenched and tempered steel? That's a good point. It does not matter what you use. If it works, it works. Our goal is to make it hold itself up for the bridge and hold a load of a truck and make it as cheap as possible. So if that works for you, Brendan, great. If you got your bridge to work, go ahead and submit it. We're just going to go by the cheapest and most effective bridge, essentially. So if you're still wondering about Bridge Designer, doesn't matter which material, which diameter, whatever you use. Did I get yours? Did you submit it to Edmodo, Hannah? I think I got yours. I just need to double check. Yeah, I got yours. No big deal. So keep in mind, if you want to move a whole object, if you don't group it, something like this might happen. You had this wonderful face put together. If you don't group it, all that work you put forth into making the face look good is going to go to waste. Now, I had a few issues last class with folks whose 123D crashed. As a result, I'm going to recommend two things to you, so pay attention right now. The fewer things you group together, the less likely it is to crash. So, for this picture, for example, if you wanted to group together, or if you wanted to put together your nose and your head, I would group the nose and head together, and then group the eyes with the nose and head group. You want to group as small as possible. So don't group more than a couple things together at once. Also, I highly recommend that you save your work after everything you add. I say this because I had people's objects that totally messed up. They had to restart it last class. It's not fun to have to redo something you've already done. So please make it a habit to, on a PC, hit Control S, on a Mac, hit Command S. So that's a good point. I definitely forgot to add that. So how do you group? Thank you for mentioning that. I almost forgot. So let's say I have two objects here. I want them to stay in this position. I don't want to move just one. I want them to be together. What you would do is at the top of your screen, there is this button called grouping. It looks like a cube and a circle together. There are three options underneath this. The first is group. The second is ungroup. And the third is ungroup all. Obviously, to group, we're going to choose the group button. So let's go ahead and click on it. Okay, let me double check that this did work. Yeah, there we go. Let's go ahead and click on group. It's going to tell you to click on solids to group. Click on your first solid, click on your second solid, hit enter, and they should be grouped. What would happen if these were not grouped? Anybody want to tell me what would happen if I did not group these two things together? Any ideas? They would be printed separate. You're close. They would be moving separately. Yeah, only one would move. So keep that in mind. For example, with the snowman head, you're going to want them to be grouped. But again, group them piece by piece. So group them. The less you group at a time, the less likely your computer is to crash. I don't want your computer to crash. That sort of is unfortunate. So that said, we're going to go ahead and make our first design. We've made our nice little comfy cube, but we're going to do something a little bit more complex now. We're going to build the head of your favorite animal. Animal includes robots, apparently, according to my last class. And animal also includes humans. So you're going to build the head of your favorite animal or human or robot. To do this, you will need to break... Yes, you can do unicorns. I don't see why not. Anything you want. I just want you to build something that you're interested in. Your favorite animal can't be a plant technically, but I will allow you to build a plant. I'm saying animal because in the future, we will be using a specific feature of this program, and so your plant does need to be somewhat symmetrical. Yeah, you're welcome, Lauren. Your plant does need to be symmetrical if you want to do a plant for future reference. But to do this, you'll need to break down your object, I suppose, into primitives. So a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a cone, or a torus. You're making a daisy. Alright, that's great. Just make sure that you can divide it in half and it'll be symmetric. Does anybody know what a torus is? It's not the astrological sign. Any idea of what a torus may be? It looks like a tire. Yes, you got it. A tire or a donut. It's basically one of these guys right here. So you will have to draw your design, object, animal, whatever, with primitives. You can make food. Again, please make it somewhat symmetrical. A tortoise, but turtles. It's a torus. Torus. And you could draw a turtle if you want, in fact. Like, I'm fine with that. So my favorite animal was a cat. This is actually my cat here. Her name is Pri. She's beautiful. And she's sitting right next to me right now. If you were to break down a cat's head, you would start with the head itself. It's a sphere. It's going to be the biggest piece. Thank you. I love my cat. She's great. Right, Pri? She's like, no, get away from me. Anyways. The ears would probably correspond with cones, given the options that we have. The eyes would be spheres. The nose would probably also be a cone. And the whiskers would be cylinders. So go ahead and break down whichever object you have into these primitives. Remember the cube, sphere, cylinder, cone, or torus. And I want you to put them together to make yourself an animal, plant, I don't know what it is, whatever object that you really want to make. That's sort of symmetric, you will be making. A couple of hints for you. You're going to start with the largest piece, which is probably going to be the head, if you're doing a living, sentient thing. It may help you to use the snap feature. A primitive is just this button here. It'll say primitives if you hover over it. And then from there you can insert a box, sphere, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't start anything with the belly, to be honest, because we're only making a head. That wouldn't make sense to add a belly. That said, the snap feature, it's this sort of magnet looking dude here. You can, but what we're going to be doing in the future is making a head using a different feature. So you can make a rhino, but it's basically time dependent. You're making a frog. Alright, let's put it this way, folks. Y'all can build a whole object, but it's going to take longer. I'm okay with that, especially if you're familiar with Tinkercad, or SketchUp, or any other CAD program. If you're not familiar with other CAD programs, if you've never 3D modeled before, I want you to just make a head. If you're familiar with CAD, go ahead and you can make the whole thing. Now, what was the other question I saw here? Oh yeah, snap. Snap's a pretty cool feature. If you have two objects that are close together, if you click on snap, you can put these objects together. They will basically barely touch each other. It's nice if you want to have an object on the face of another object. So snap might make it easier if you're trying to build ears, but you don't have to use it. Now also I want you all to make sure that your primitives sink into the head of your object. Otherwise your object might look sort of funky. And here's my example of it. Notice the ears are sunk into the head. They are not symmetric. We will get to that a little bit later today. But the eyes and the nose are sunk into the head. And yeah. So go ahead, draw your object. I'm going to give you until 6:35, so that's going to be about 8 minutes. Please raise your hand. I will unraise everybody's hand now. Raise your hand once you have completed your object or gotten to a point where you're happy with it. We will be working with this later. So don't be afraid to take your time. I'm here to help if you have questions as well. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes to work on this. No pressure. Don't be afraid to ask me questions too, guys and gals. I'm here. While you're working, I just want to remind you that Harrisburg has lab tomorrow evening, I guess. And Raleigh does have lab on Saturday. We will most likely be getting our Raspberry Pis in this next lab. So get excited, guys. I know there's a lot of stuff I have not yet addressed, but I can help you with that now. I will be going over it later as in today or next class. Alright, seeing a couple folks finishing up. Well done, y'all. If you are finished, remember there are a lot of different functions I haven't gone over yet. I would like for you to give them a try. Remember, I will go over a lot of these later, so if you don't get it immediately, I gotcha. I do see a question here. What's the question I see? So the question is, how would you make something that looks like a smiley face but flipped? So you're talking about like a reverse D and a colon. And you're looking to do this in 1, 2, 3D, right? For that, what I'd probably do is use the sketch functions, which I haven't gone over yet, but that's okay. I would use the polyline function, meaning it's a line with multiple points on it. Click once to start drawing on your work plane. Click again to specify your first point. Click again to start your next point, I suppose, your next line. And I'd probably use the spline function. Why did that not work? Oh well. Derp, 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 derp. Why are you being so mean to me? From there, Harrison, what I would do, in the construct pane, there's an option called extrude. That will make your 2D object three-dimensional. But yes, keep in mind grouping. Good point, Wyatt. What, grouping does not like you? All you gotta do to group, remember, you click on group, click on your first object that you want to group, then your second object, and then hit enter on your keyboard. That's what most of the commands are click on one thing, click on the next, bam. It does take a lot of getting used to, so I'm not saying it's not weird to get used to. It is really a matter of practice. And that's what all CAD is. Especially if you are not quite as good spatially. Not everybody is. I'm actually going to give you, let me think real quick. I'm seeing some folks need a couple more minutes or so. Again, to everybody else, go ahead and make the rest of the body. See if you can use any of the other functions we have not gone over yet. Now the question is, which do I use as the mouth of my unicorn? Good question. I might even say don't even add a mouth yet. Because if you're given the primitives box, sphere, cylinder, cone, and torus, I don't think any of those would match a unicorn mouth. So I know y'all are working, but I do want to see how my pacing is going today. Again, my apologies for not being here Monday, and I hope that I have picked up roughly where you left off. But go ahead, do this poll real quick, and I will see where we stand. It's looking like a wonderful hodgepodge of everything. Okay. So mostly good, a little bit of everything else. If you're having trouble, please take a look at the YouTube video after class. If I'm going too slow, email me. I will see if I can, give you some tasks to prove your skill at this. So again, please raise your hand if you're ready to continue. The bridge design, we still have not judged yet. We will get you that in the next couple days. If you have to go ahead. It's not quite 7 yet, so if you don't have to go, don't go. If your parents are telling you need to go ahead. You too, Devin. Have a good night. I'll see you on Monday. This class was very short. No. Class is not done yet. Somebody needed to go, though. So I said, okay, have a good night. Don't worry. Just go ahead and go. Yeah. I still have more I'm going to go over. Don't worry. I'm going to go all the way till 7. And that said, I am going to move on to the next topic. I know I said 5 minutes ago, but I'm going to start as soon as my clock hits 6:40, which could happen any time now, actually. In 10 seconds, actually. Okay. Alright. So I hope you did get a solid baseline drawing. I'm going to introduce a couple more concepts that might make it a little bit easier for you to make drawings. The first being the patterns option. So if you go into 123D Design, the patterns is the 4 cubes that are right next to each other. on the top taskbar, it says pattern. That's exactly what it is, a pattern. So there's 4 options when you use pattern. You got rectangular pattern, circular pattern, path pattern, and mirror. We're probably only going to get to rectangular, circular, and mirror. We'll get to path next class because that introduces 2-dimensional design. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the rectangular pattern. Now go ahead and save your animal design. Just save it as your last name and then the word design. And let's create a new design, which will just be a good old box, just a single box. The first pattern we'll be working on is rectangular. So once you have your box created, we'll click on the pattern button and then click on rectangular pattern. The prompt that'll pop up says solids and directions. Now your mouse will have a little prompt that'll say select solids to create pattern. Go ahead and click and drag over our box because that is going to be our patterned solid. We'll then click on directions. Your cursor is going to prompt select 1 or 2 edges to assign directions. Yes, I will repeat that, what I said before. So I want you to click on pattern and rectangular pattern. Your mouse will say select solids to create pattern. We would like to select this box. So we are going to click and hold down the mouse button and drag until our entire box is covered. You can tell by it all being green outlines. On this dialog box that sort of is hanging out up here, we'll click on directions. Now notice that your mouse now says select 1 or 2 edges to assign directions. You finished your frog? Nice. Go ahead and save that. We're going to continue. We'll work more on that a little bit later though. But I'm excited that you did. I hope to see it a little bit later. But your mouse says select 1 or 2 edges to assign directions. I want you to just click on 1 for now. Notice, like with the move command, that there are 2 arrows. One will move parallel to the design, so it'll move along the same line that this edge is. The other will be perpendicular to your design, so it'll move at a 90-degree angle from your edge. No! Well, if you press something accidentally, you'll have to start over again. I'm sorry. Or start at least from the box. Notice you can change the distance between the objects, and you can change the quantity of the objects that you have created. So I do see that it crashed for some people. It's going to happen. I truly hope that you have been saving your design. Since this is just a practice, go ahead and reopen it. Just know that this is how it would work. I'm sorry that it crashed. I know not everybody's computers are created equally. Stuff happens sometimes. It's also frozen. If you can hit Control Alt Delete if you're on a Windows computer and X out of 123D Design, that should keep you connected. I'm not sure what the equivalent is on a Mac though. Anybody know what the equivalent of Control Alt Delete is on Mac? Command Option Escape. And thank you. I never know what it is on a Mac. I have never owned a Mac before. The webinar software is kind of resource heavy for your computer, which is why we upload the YouTube videos so y'all can watch that later if your computer is not being cooperative. I know it happens sometimes. If I hadn't built mine to game on, I doubt I would be able to handle this myself. So that said, if you have gotten a solid hang on the pattern design, or the, what is it, linear pattern? Rectangular pattern, give the circular pattern a try. It behaves a little bit differently, but instead of it being linear, as in along this work plane, it will work in a circular pattern. So if this grid were of circles, that's how the circular pattern would behave. It'll rotate your object around an axis or an edge or whatever you set it to rotate about. But go ahead, give that a try. Either start a new box or use one of the existing boxes to do it. Keep in mind the pattern we use to create the pattern. So you gotta select a solid, select an axis or a face to create the pattern about. I'm gonna pick this one. And from there you can increase the amount that you're rotating, of pattern objects about this axis, but there's also more to it from there. To those of you who think they have mastered, can I repeat how to do it? Yes, I will repeat how to do it because I did not give a good example there. So let's start a new box just to keep it consistent. Just like before, we'll click on pattern and then circular pattern. and then select the new box we created. Let me get a better view here. So we have the solids. Now if we click on axis, we are able to select either an edge or a face, or even a line, which I haven't gone over, or a grid. You could do it about the grid, but it's going to be confusing if you do. I want you to click on one of the edges of this box, and 2 more squares should pop up. Now if you increase this count here, you can add more squares or less squares. But that still leaves the question, how would we, you didn't get that? All right, one more time. So let's create a new box. So primitives box. Then let's scroll over to pattern and then click on circular pattern. The first option that will pop up is going to be solids, because we want to copy the solid. We want to copy this box. Let's click the left mouse button and drag it so that we select the entire box. It'll have an entirely green outline if we selected it. We can then click on Axis on this dialog menu right at the top middle of your screen. And I would like for you to click on the front edge of your box, the top front edge. When you do that, by default, you will have these nice 3 boxes evenly spaced in a complete circle here. Now, to those of you who have practiced this a little bit, what if I didn't want these cubes to be perfectly circular? What if I didn't want them to be about an axis completely evenly spaced? Anybody know what I would do if I wanted to have them not evenly spaced? It's okay if not, I'm about to teach you it. You're still confused? Alright. So are you comfortable with the rectangular pattern option? Alright, so this is the same way, except instead of making a rectangle along the x-axis and the y-axis, you're using a circular axis. You are saying this edge is not only an edge, it's also going to be our axis of rotation. So if you're playing, what's it called? Tetherball, the post is going to be your axis of rotation. One of these edges is essentially the post in tetherball. Anyone? I hope everyone's familiar with tetherball. If not, this might seem confusing more so. You know what it is? Okay. So this axis is going to be your tetherball. or your post for tetherball. The tetherball always revolves around the post. So if I have this entire box selected for a circular pattern, this is my axis. The box, the tetherball, it's going to go completely around your axis. So if you were to swing yourself around a pole, that's basically what's happening here. I do want you to give that a try. The mirror option is even more complex than this, so I do want you to get familiarized with the circular pattern option. Oh, you crashed it? Yeah, I'm sorry if y'all's computers are crashing. I really do apologize. It is just a hardware thing. I would recommend watching the YouTube video if it's being a problem for you. The webinar software, again, is not agreeable to resource use. Okay, well, I don't feel bad if you wrote 999 for your quantity. That would probably crash mine, too. But I do like that you tried, because how are you going to know if it crashes if you don't try? It looks like a perfect circle. Yeah, it will look like a perfect circle. As you get farther into math, you'll realize that it is a calculus problem. The more points you add to a circle, or to a like a hexagon or an octagon, the more points you add, the more closely it'll resemble a circle. To those of you familiar with SketchUp, a perfect circle in SketchUp is actually 24 points. And yes, my voice will distort if your computer crashes. So that said, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to experiment with all the pattern commands. I recommend watching the YouTube video. It will be the one of my first class. Your computer's connection is horrible. Again, I do recommend the YouTube video. This one's going to be of the first class, which I got just a smidgen further, including the mirror pattern command. I'll go over it next class to show you how it works. But I would like you to at least familiarize yourselves with the rectangular and the, what is it, rotation? What did I call it? Sorry. The circular patterns, just to get used to it. Now, to those of you that are used to it, I want you to give a couple things a try. Specifically, I want you to make a pearl necklace. So pearls just being those spheres. I want you to make a complete loop of those. I just want to let you give those a try. It's not totally simple to those who are familiar with these patterns. So I'll go over how to do that next class. It is 7, so if you need to go, please go. I will be on here for questions for just a couple more minutes. So again, if you need to go, go. If not, I'm here for you for now. I'm also available via email. Remember, it is saunders.yeot@gmail.com. If you need to go, take care. I'm glad you came out tonight. Thank you so much for doing that. Alright, bye Miles. Thanks a bunch for coming out. If you do have questions, please ask me like right now. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. You got a question, Lauren? Or was that just a hand raise, yay, hand raise thing?